Hello and welcome to this Friday's episode of Sports Corner. I'm Cole Young and it's been a whirlwind of a week, so I'll get right to it. Starting, as usual, with the NFL, it's officially the best time of the year, the playoffs. The past 18 weeks absolutely flew by. Normally in week 18, a lot of teams have already cemented their fate, either in the playoffs or not. So, a lot of teams will rest their starters. That was somewhat the case this past week, but it surprisingly ended up being one of the best weeks of the season. I'll try to quickly run through it all. In the AFC on Saturday morning, the AFC North was up for grabs. The Ravens steamrolled the rival Browns 35-10, clinching the division title for the second straight year and cementing the number 3 seed in the playoffs. The red-hot Cincinnati Bengals then fought for their future in the final playoff spot as they took on the struggling Steelers, who already clinched the playoff spot earlier that week. The Bengals' normally dominant offense was slightly dormant, but they still managed to grind out a 19-17 win and keep their playoff hopes alive. All they needed was for the Broncos and Dolphins to lose. The Dolphins did just that as the Aaron Rodgers threw for 4 touchdowns and the Jets ended their tumultuous season on a high note with a 32-20 win over Miami. But, unfortunately for Cincinnati, the Broncos didn't hold up on their end of the bargain. Bo Nix handled his first do-or-die NFL game like a seasoned veteran. The rookie unloaded on the Kansas City Chiefs, passing for 321 yards and 4 touchdowns, as Denver put on a show at home, winning 38-0. Yes, the Chiefs played mostly backups and technically had nothing to play for. However, Broncos were playing for and secured their first playoff spot in just about 9 years, breaking one of the active longest playoff droughts in the league. The Chargers, like the Steelers, had already clinched their spot in the playoffs. But pride and rivalry still enticed them to pull out a 34-20 win over the Raiders and end their season on a high note. To round out the AFC, the Texans got the train back on the tracks before the playoffs after beating the rival Titans. With that loss, the Titans also secured the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 draft. Back in August, I made my playoff predictions. I said in the AFC, the Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, and Texans would be the division winners. I went 4 for 4 there, but I said the Bengals, Dolphins, and Broncos would be the 3 wildcard teams. Obviously, I didn't know it at the time, but those 3 teams ended up competing for the final spot in the wildcard. The 3 wildcard teams ended up being the Chargers, Steelers, and Broncos, which means I got 5 out of 7 right for the AFC, which is not too bad. Moving over to the NFC, the battle for the NFC South title was electric. The Bucs and Saints were facing off at the same time as the Falcons and Panthers, and the Bucs and Falcons both needed to win to earn the division title and a playoff spot. Each game was within 1 score as the clocks ticked down, and while the Buccaneers clinched their 4th consecutive NFC South title with a 27-19 win over the Saints, the Falcons fell short to the Carolina Panthers in overtime, 44-38. In the final play of the Tampa Bay game, wide receiver Mike Evans made history, catching a 9-yard pass to surpass 1,000 receiving yards for the 11th consecutive season. This milestone ties Jerry Rice for the most in NFL history. The Eagles already had their position wrapped up, and even so, still defeated the New York Giants. The Commanders were technically already in the playoffs, but a last-second touchdown from Marcus Mariota to Terry McLaurin sealed the win over the Cowboys and actually bumped the Commanders up into the 6th seed. In another game that had 0 implications, the Chicago Bears ended their overall 10-game losing streak and snapped their 11-game losing streak against the playoff-bound Green Bay Packers. The last regular season game of the year mattered most as the Detroit Lions and Minnesota Vikings faced off with a lot on the line. The winner would claim the NFC North title and the number 1 seed and first-round bye in the playoffs. Jahmyr Gibbs put up an astonishing 4 touchdowns and 170 all-purpose yards to propel the Lions to a 31-9 win over the Vikings. With a record of 15-2, this was the best season in Detroit Lions history. So for the NFC, I predicted that the 49ers, Eagles, Buccaneers, and Packers would be the 4 division winners, while the Lions, Rams, and Bears would be the 3 wildcard teams. Yikes. The real NFC playoff teams are the Lions, Eagles, Buccaneers, and Rams as the division winners, followed by the Vikings, Commanders, and Packers in the wildcard. I technically got 5 out of 7 right, even though some of the division winners were wrong, but semantics. I'll take full blame for the Bears pick, though. That was a not proud moment of mine. Overall, I got 10 out of 14 playoff teams correct, about 71%, so I'll take it. Since the season is now officially over for 18 out of the 32 teams, there have already been a good amount of coach firings and movement. Quickly, here's what's happened so far, including some in-season firings you may have forgotten about. The Jets made the first change by parting ways with Robert Saleh in early October, before the Saints fired Dennis Allen on November 4th. The Bears moved on from Matt Eberflus after losing to the Lions on Thanksgiving. The Patriots fired Gerard Mayo directly after their Week 18 win over the Bills, and the Jaguars let go of Doug Peterson on Monday. The Raiders were the latest team to make a move by firing Antonio Pierce on Tuesday afternoon. Lastly, it seems like Mike McCarthy's days in Dallas are nearing an end, although it won't be because he gets fired, more likely because he will accept a different job opening. Anyway, on a lighter note, here's the wild card game schedule for this weekend. Starting tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. on CBS will be the Los Angeles Chargers traveling to Houston to take on the Texans. Then at 5 p.m. on Amazon Prime will be the Baltimore Ravens hosting the rival Pittsburgh Steelers. On Sunday, the Broncos will start the day when they head to Buffalo to take on the Bills at 10 a.m. on CBS. Then at 1:30 will be the Packers and Eagles facing off in Philly on Fox. At 5 p.m., the Washington Commanders and Tampa Bay Buccaneers will battle it out on NBC. Finally, barring any changes due to the fires in LA, closing out the weekend will be the Vikings and Rams in LA at 5 p.m. on Monday. Before all that, though, the semifinal rounds of the college football playoffs are taking place. Yesterday, we had the heavily anticipated matchup of number 6 Penn State and number 7 Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl. The Irish continued their season of destiny, pulling off another win and punching their ticket to the national championship. Who they will face will be determined in the Cotton Bowl today at 4:30 p.m. on ESPN, when the Ohio State Buckeyes and Texas Longhorns compete for their shot to earn a national title. If I had to make a prediction today, I'd say Ohio State will take it all this year, but only time will tell. By the time this 5 o'clock broadcast of this show airs, I might already be wrong. Like I said last week, this all builds to the national championship game next Monday, January 20th. Lastly, to close the show, I'll move away from football. The U.S. national junior hockey team erased a 2-goal deficit and earned a 4-3 victory over Finland in the gold medal game of the 2025 IIHF World Junior Championship earlier this week. Not only did they pull out the gold medal win, they did it in dramatic fashion when Teddy Stiga scored on a breakaway at 8:04 of overtime for a 4-3 victory. With that win, Team USA has repeated as champions for the first time in their history at that tournament. With all of that said, be sure to enjoy your weekend full of football and other sports if you so choose. The playoffs are here and it's a great feeling. However, it means the season's just about over, so enjoy every last minute of it while you still can. As always, thank you for joining me on this week's episode of Sports Corner. I'm Cole Young. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next time.